This is the reality. Now, where does Africa fit into this? Let me start with the basic demographics. In 1950, Africa was 9% of the world population, around 250 million people in a world of 2.5 to 3 billion people. Today, Africa is 18% of the world population, twice the share of what it was in 1950, with 1.4 billion people. Today, Africa has the same population as China and India. But while China is now at a peak and is in population decline, that will be quite significant, by the way, during this century, so that China's population by the end of the 21st century will be under 1 billion people, maybe even below 800 million people. And India's population will stabilize at something like 1.7 billion people. Africa's population is so young that there is a tremendous population growth built in to Africa till the end of the century. So Africa's population will be 2.5 billion people at mid-century. That means around 25% of the world population. So from 9% to 18% today to 25% at mid-century. And at least on current trajectory, I think it's probably not correct, but on the current extrapolation, with a gradually declining fertility rate, Africa reaches about 3.7 billion people by the end of the 21st century. And that is about 35% of the world population. It may not reach that level because the fertility rate, in my view, will come down more rapidly than what is in this medium forecast of the UN. But Africa's population will reach 3 billion people. And that means that Africa will be a third of the world population, up from 9% in 1950. What about the economics? We are in a golden age of technology right now. We are in the most amazing acceleration of technological know-how in history. Everything has accelerated. If you launch ChatGPT 1 month, within the next month there are 100 million users. Within 6 months there are 500 million users. We've never had an uptake of technology at this speed in history. So if this technological know-how is properly utilized, the ability of Africa to achieve what China achieved, double-digit growth for 4 decades, is absolutely realistic. This is the main point. Africa can achieve a dramatic advance. What is happening in this city in Addis Ababa, which is exactly that kind of double-digit growth, so that if you come, as we do, each year to the AU summit, you see a city transformed from 1 year to the next. That can be Africa's general reality, not only in Addis Ababa, but across the continent. And incidentally, Africa's growth will be urban-based growth. Africa today is maybe 40 or 45% urban, although we have to be very careful on definitions because what is urban and what is rural is somewhat arbitrary in definition. And a lot of rural areas are really pretty urban already, with a lot of non-agricultural employment. But Africa will be 60 or 70% urban by around 2060 or 2070. And the basic reason, by the way, is that agriculture will be mechanized everywhere. Don't think that rising agricultural productivity means better jobs in agriculture. It means an elimination of jobs in agriculture, as it has everywhere in the world. In the US, which has the most advanced agriculture in the world, together with Canada, we have 1% of our population in agriculture. And Africa's share of the population in agriculture will decline to below 10%, probably within 30 or 40 years. And that means an urban Africa, and that means what you're observing in Addis Ababa, that will be true all over Africa. So think about the big cities and the regional cities. They will be the growth poles for this rapid economic development. What will it take for Africa to achieve this kind of dynamism? Basically, be like China or be like India. Unified, integrated structure, continental scale economy with a continental scale policy and plan. That's what it will take. If you have to do this 55 times, it won't work. And if you have to do this 55 times, once for each of the member states of the AU, by that time you will be picked apart by the other powers. Africa will just become a divided corpse. So we'll do an autopsy in 40 years, not Africa at the center of the world economy. So Africa, first and foremost, needs to think at a continental scale and operate at a continental scale. And one of the reasons why I'm optimistic is that's happening. Yes, too slowly. It's frustrating. But there truly, really is an African continental free trade area. It's real. It's going to become more real. It could be operationalized a lot faster. It should be operationalized a lot faster. If my colleague, Dr. Hippolyte Fofac, who was chief economist at Frexim Bank, gets his way, there will be an African Union currency. One currency for the continent. This is the right idea. This is practicable within the next 10 to 20 years. Really practicable. And absolutely the right thing to do to make a continental scale economy. The second thing that Africa needs is, well, the second, third, and fourth is investment, investment, and investment. Three kinds of investment. Most important, please, every child on this continent should complete at least upper secondary school with real learning. So figure out how to do that. Give me a call. I have some ideas as well. Every child should have a device in their hand to be connected online. It can be a tablet, it can be a computer, it can be a smartphone, but they need to watch their classes online. They need to do assignments online. They need to have their AI personalized tutor helping them with that math problem online. It's virtually free to do this if you actually work out the capital costs. There should be no limits of teachers in rural areas or teachers that are underqualified or can't do a math problem, because we don't need the traditional delivery as the only delivery of education right now. We're in a digital world. You can leapfrog. Be creative, be inventive, but take the basic idea. Don't let the budget constraint stand in the way of universal quality education. It's by far the #1 resource of this continent, and it's growing very rapidly. And there is no demographic dividend of a young population if it is not educated. None at all, only a burden. The only demographic dividend is if all those young people have a proper education. So please figure out how to do this. And the education minister, the finance minister, the minister for digital technologies need to huddle together and say, how are we going to get this done? And one basic idea that I believe in is if you need to borrow long-term, find a 40-year loan from China or from the Gulf or other places to fill a financing gap, and then tell the kids, we're going to educate you, and when you are adults, you're going to have decent jobs, and wherever you're going to be, you're going to pay a 10% payroll tax because we educated you. So we're going to collect for your education, not in an onerous way, but in a way so that we can finance you today. Because I know the finance ministers of this continent, and they're responsible, and they say, we don't have a budget, Mr. Sachs, for universal education. And they go to the IMF, and the IMF doesn't think straight. And they say, so sorry, maybe you can't get all the kids in school. That's a shame. That is not the answer. The answer is all the kids are going to be in school, and we're going to figure out how to do it. And by the way, that's almost half the population of Africa. This has to be a whole continent in learning right now. This is a continent with a 19-year median age. Half the kids are at school age. I mean, half the population is at school age in this continent. Make sure they're learning. And then you get the transformation beyond anything we can dream today. The second major investment is physical infrastructure. And of course, that entails the power sector, the transport sector, the digital sector, social housing, water and sanitation. The key infrastructure. There needs to be an Africa-wide strategy that reaches down to every part of the continent. The power sector should tap your wind, solar, hydro, geothermal. This continent has enough high-quality solar to power the entire world, as you know. We've all seen the little box in the Sahara that has enough solar energy to power the entire world. Let me tell you, China has the solar module capacity to make Africa the solar power capital of the world. In other words, China's productive capacity is about 1,300 gigawatts of solar modules a year, but they're only producing half of that right now because that's where the demand is right now. So my proposal is Africa says, we'll be the rest of the demand, thank you. Give us long-term financing. We take the solar capacity. We electrify all of Africa. And in rural areas, we do it on microgrids or individual homesteads. People can take their solar modules with them when they go to the cities. We can do this throughout the entire continent in the next 10 years. And I'm asking the Chinese leadership, support Africa in a China-Africa partnership for complete electrification of this continent in the coming 10 years. And one can think about the same in digital, in transport, in hydrogen. We don't have to wait 30 years or 50 years. We don't have to be on an IMF timetable. We can be on an expedited double-digit growth timetable for the next 40 years. If you do this and you project forward, Africa becomes, by the end of this century at least, roughly a third of the world economy. That's good. Today it's 5% of the world economy. It can be around 1/3 of the world economy by the end of this century. And you look at a map, that's the center of the world. And that's a good thing. And that's what we should aim for. And that will mean for Africa a unified strategy, investment, 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 and strategic partnerships with all who want to be strategic partners with Africa. That will be China, that should be India, that should be the Arab countries, especially the Gulf countries, who should not be putting their money into the United States, but should be putting their money into Africa, where the returns will be much higher. I hope it will be the United States once we get out of our current disorder. I call it America's cultural revolution, but that will pass. We will return to what we are, which is a diverse, wonderfully diverse society. We live in New York. My wife and I, we love New York. We even hear English once in a while. We love our Ethiopian restaurant on Amsterdam Avenue. We like the diversity. That's America, not Mr. Trump. So we're hoping we get back to that, because that's the truth of the United States, and that's the best part of the United States. I hope there will be a Europe that is functional in the future. Europe is destroying itself through Russophobia right now. This is the main self-inflicted wound. If Mr. Merz would pick up the phone and call Mr. Putin, or I want to encourage Mr. Putin to pick up the phone and call Chancellor Merz, and they could have a good discussion and calm things down and stop this hatred that is escalating right now, this would work. And if anyone really wants to understand Russian history, they will understand that Russia did not invade Europe. Europe invaded Russia multiple times, and shame. It's time to end this. And there never would have been a Cold War, by the way, had Franklin Roosevelt not had a stroke on April 12, 1945, because he understood how to cooperate with Stalin, and there would have been peace, and there would have been a demilitarized Germany at the heart of Europe, and there never would have been an occupation of Eastern Europe by the Soviet Union, because there would have been a solution, not a Cold War. But unfortunately, the vision of peace was overridden by the US military-industrial complex. And that's what did us in. But now Europe is doing this in a self-inflicted way, because it doesn't even understand how the US led Europe into this trap. So I'm hoping that there will be a Europe that is as great as it is, because it's cradle of Western civilization. It's 450 million people. It's got the highest living standards in the world, and the last thing it needs to do is to march off to war. So Europe could be a partner with Africa too, but it has to get its act together first. So, ladies and gentlemen, my main point is we are in a multipolar reality. This is an opportunity for Africa, combined with this miraculous technological age that we're in. The best role model for Africa is China's development of the last 40 years. It shows how to use investment and planning and an integrated strategy to go from poverty to wealth and to end extreme poverty, which China did. Africa can do the same thing, and I believe the headquarters for that will be here at the African Union, because it's African unity that will be the key. Thank you very much.
If you enjoy this video, don't forget to share your comments below and subscribe to our channel for more exciting videos coming up.